Look at open water for more than a few seconds, and something in your chest tightens. You cannot see the bottom. You cannot see the other side. Some primal part of your brain quietly says, do not go in there. For every single one of your ancestors, that same tightening was not a passing feeling. It was a daily calculation about survival, and somewhere along the way, a small number of them looked at that fear and crossed anyway. This is not a story about boats. Boats came much later. This is a story about people crossing open ocean with nothing but a hollowed log, a handful of stars, and a decision that could easily have killed them. So how did anyone do this before ships existed? And why does the answer feel almost impossible? For decades, the working theory was simple. No boats, no way across. Early hominins were pictured as coastwalkers, hugging the shoreline, never once drifting into open water on purpose. Then researchers cracked that theory open on a small island in Indonesia called Flores. At a site called Mata Menje, they found stone tools and hominin remains dating back roughly 700,000 years. Flores sits beyond a deep channel called the Wallace Line, a stretch of ocean that never dried out, even during the lowest points of the ice ages. Whatever reached that island did not walk there. Picture a violent coastal storm ripping through a forest, dragging a tangle of trees and vines into the surf, and carrying a small group of hominins out to sea on a raft they never built and never asked for. They did not choose this crossing. The ocean chose it for them, and somehow some of them lived. That explains one kind of crossing. It does not explain what happens next. Around 65,000 years ago, something shifts completely. Modern humans begin turning up in Australia, a landmass cut off from Asia by dozens of islands and channels, some stretching past 70 kilometers of open water with no land visible on either side. A site called Madjedbibi in northern Australia shows human occupation reaching back to roughly this period. One raft ride does not explain this. Reaching Australia meant repeated deliberate crossings through the region. Archaeologists now call Wallacea again and again for generation after generation. Here is the detail that changes everything. Population modeling shows a single-stranded survivor cannot start a lasting population. You need groups, multiple journeys, multiple arrivals, enough people surviving long enough to reproduce. That means someone, somewhere, decided open water was worth trying on purpose, without a shred of proof anything waited on the far side. Picture a group standing on a beach at dusk, watching a horizon with no land in sight, no birds circling, no evidence of anything ahead. They push off anyway, into the dark. Now stop for a second and ask yourself something. Would you have gotten in that boat? Most people wouldn't. And yet, enough of them did again and again that it changed the map of the entire species. In 2019, a team led by researcher Yusuke Kaifu tried recreating a Paleolithic crossing from Taiwan to the Ryukyu Islands using a dugout canoe, built entirely with Stone Age tools. No metal, no modern materials. It took the crew over 45 hours of non-stop paddling to cross roughly 225 kilometers of brutal open water, fighting one of the strongest ocean currents on the planet, the Kuroshio Current. They made it. Which means people 45,000 years ago plausibly made it too, using nothing more than a hollowed log, raw endurance, and knowledge of currents passed down with no writing at all. The Pacific holds the most remote islands on Earth, and somehow people reached almost every one of them with no instruments, no compasses, and no written charts of any kind. Rapa Nui, sitting over 3,000 kilometers from the nearest continent, was settled by around the year 1200. Reaching it meant sailing straight past thousands of kilometers of empty horizon on purpose, with total confidence that something was waiting out there. That is not an accident. That is navigation. Pacific voyagers built something called wayfinding, an entire navigation system stored only in memory. They read the angle of swells bouncing invisibly off islands they could not yet see. They tracked star paths that shifted with the seasons. They watched for seabirds that never wander far from land, using them like living compasses. None of it was written down anywhere. Sit with that pressure for a moment. No radio, no rescue signal, just your memory of the sky and the feel of waves under a hull, deciding whether your entire crew lives or drowns tonight. In every single one of these crossings, nobody could confirm land existed before they left. No scouting drone, no satellite image, no earlier traveler radioing back that it was safe. They left anyway. Some of them almost certainly died doing it, lost without a trace and without a single record. We only know about the ones who survived, because failure leaves no story behind, which brings us back to that tightening in your chest, the one you feel looking at open water. That small flicker of fear is a distant echo of something much older, the same instinct that once pushed a stranger onto a raft, into a canoe, out toward a horizon with absolutely nothing on it. You just have better information now. Radar instead of guesswork. Satellites instead of birds and stars. But underneath all of that information, the impulse has barely changed. Somewhere in your history, someone chose the unknown over the safety of the shore, not because they were certain, but because staying still carried its own quiet danger. So the next time you look at open water from a plane window, a beach, or a bridge, remember that it was not always just scenery. It was the last thing thousands of people ever saw, and the first thing that told other thousands they had finally made it. And somewhere out there, long before any of us existed, someone stood at the edge of everything they knew, felt that same tightening in their chest, and decided not knowing was not a good enough reason to stay.